ressenti partout.
All right. All right. Yeah, let's get into our movie review, which is a little bit different this week because we did have a little bit of miscommunication, and we're not going to have our regular movie review per se. You know, because every month we kind of have a theme, or we usually have a theme for every month. And for this month, it does still kind of apply then.
Yeah, it does kind of apply. I was just thinking that. Yeah, it does kind of apply to the
and
theme
so
of the month.
this month we're doing heist films, but and usually it's an older film. It's not a modern, or it's not a contemporary film. But this week it because of the miscommunication, and also because of the fact that me and Robert both went to go watch this movie on the same day, but just at different times. We're going to review the latest movie to come out of South Korea, and that's Parasite.
Oh, God damn, it was so good.
Should I have this queued up?
Yeah, it wasn't one of our scheduled heist films that we have for the month.
Right, but yeah, just like thinking about it, this movie is kind of like a heist movie. So
a little bit.
It still kind of works. If you guys don't know, or if you've been living under a rock for the past month and a half, Parasite is the latest film from Korean director Joon-ho.
Didn't it win the Cannes Film Festival this year?
Yeah, it won the Palme d'Or, which basically is kind of like winning Cannes, essentially.
Right. Yeah, and it was the first Korean film to do so.
Yeah. Just a quick synopsis on that. What is it? Greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. Yeah, this is I'm just reading the first synopsis that I can find. Maybe I can find a better one, but that essentially is what the movie is about.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah,
it is. And this director.
But quickly, are we gonna get into spoilers? Are we gonna review the whole thing with spoilers?
We don't have to. I don't know how you want to do this, because there's a lot to talk about in this film.
Right, but I think I know, because
See, this is the problem with doing a new film, because
exactly, I know. Yeah, with older movies, it's like, who cares? The movie's been out. You should have watched it.
It's like 20 years old. Get over it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will say this, and this isn't a spoiler, because this is I watched after the movie. There was a short interview with the director talking about his thoughts.
Wait, where did you watch it?
I watched it at ArcLight.
Oh, okay, that's probably why. I watched that at AMC.
But there was a short interview with him, and it is he deals with movies that have to do with class struggle.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember a lot of his movies, but yeah, one of the things that I read up on was that a lot of his movies, deal with class issues. So.
His I think the one that he did before this was Snowpiercer.
And that wasn't an exclusive. There were Hollywood A-listers in that movie, like Chris Evans and who was the other people? It was I think Octavia Spencer was in it.
Yeah, there was actually some pretty big heavy hitters in that film.
Yeah, or at least American heavy hitters. But continue.
But yeah, and so and he's talking about how he because this director, he's kind of the way I see him, because he's very meticulous and thoughtful, and nothing is just nothing is thrown away. There's nothing kind of everything is he's very in control of what he's doing, and he has even talking about like how he wrote this screenplay. It took him, he I think worked on it for about 4 months, and then he sat on it for a little while, just kind of like rereading it through and thinking about it to
Right. I
see if
mean,
it worked.
to use a culinary term, he's a very snout to tail director.
Right, and then he even like went through and he's big into doing like storyboards and all that, and he drew all the storyboards to the film, and it's like this is how I want to see all the scenes. And like I mean, he's really he's kind of like I mean, he seems a little bit not quite as much of an asshole, but he is kind of like Kubrick-esque in that sense, where it's like you're very in
Hmm.
control of what's going on,
Uh-huh.
and there's no like throwaway line, throwaway scene. It's
Right.
it's all very
Yeah, it's very
planned out.
intentional, very planned out.
And so it's about like like where Snowpiercer was about like kind of like a vertical line of class,
Right.
where you have all the rich class up at the very front of the train, and the very low class at the back. It
Mhm.
was kind of flipped on its head, where it's like it's more of a vertical, where you have
You mean Parasite?
the family that lives in a house, that lives in this very nice house, especially for Korea. It's like that's a very nice house.
Yeah, very
Um,
big, very spacious, very open. A lot of
right,
like
and then
Western, a lot of Western style and Western influence in that house.
right, and then you have the I guess you could call them the protagonists, although I mean
Right,
that's
right,
really
right.
like
They're
that's
or
usually
like
stretching.
they're the protagonists, but they're not like the good guys. They're just like the main characters.
Right, so that they're living in this like sub basement, like small apartment where it's like they're literally crawling out from the ground to come up to this house.
Right. To get to street level, yeah, they're literally coming from the ground.
And so there's this, and there is always this constant like theme of class and like crossing the line that's used within the film.
Hmm.
And you have like although we're not really given too much history as far as how the that like the rich family like kind of got their start and like how they made their money and all that. uh we are kind of given some of the background and like, with the other family, like they're um kind of con artists in a ways, and they're always trying to like scam their way through, and just trying to like survive, and you know by any means possible. And once they were able to kind of get a foot in with this family, they found a way to like kind of upgrade their hustle in a sense, and
Right,
they
because
constantly
like the opening scene of the movie, it's like they're so down, they're so down on their luck that their phone service was cut, and they had to rely on Wi-Fi from like the neighbors, and then it's like oh crap, the lady upstairs put a password on her Wi-Fi, and so there's a scene of the son like trying to find a signal, and then he goes in the bathroom and he's able to find or he's able to get the signal from a nearby coffee shop.
right.
Um,
And so yeah, it's I mean that's how it starts too, and like they have bugs all around them, kind of
mhm.
playing off of the title Parasite, because that was definitely a very aptly used title for the film.
Right. I mean, because like because like the opening scene is like them being parasites, trying to get a free Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah.
So yeah, so not just like like metaphorical, but then also like literal, because like the house is like full of like these stink bugs that like the father like kind of recoils at, and
Right.
um, but yeah, this movie, yeah, like I like you were saying how like the Snowpiercer was like kind of like a horizontal view of like class. This, and you're again you're also mentioning that uh, this movie was more about the vertical and like the ascension, and I thought it was very intentional because like like how you were saying that they lived in like a basement apartment, and then this the family lived kind of like on top of a hill, but then also there was like a lot of stairs, um, to this house. And like when the son initially goes to the house to have his interview with the mother, the Mrs. Park, he climbs these stairs and he gets up into like this open like yard space, and it's almost like him, ascending into heaven.
Yeah, that was there. It definitely had that type of atmosphere, and honestly, it starts out with like I think good intention because of all the family members, he seemed to be the most like kind and like he didn't. Although like there's things that like he did too, where I was like, oh, it's like it kind of like it was a little cringeworthy, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, right, and I mean he was only there because he was helping out his friend, because his friend was the former tutor for that family, for their daughter, um, and he was heading off to study abroad, or something like that, and he asked his friend to. Well, he recommended his friend, but then also because like, oh, you're my friend, and like I like the daughter, and I need someone to like watch over her while I'm away, and you're my friend, so I'm gonna trust you, to kind of keep the creeps away. Um, but kind of I guess like the first spoiler, like the son, the new tutor, basically kind of uh, it's like it's the what is it? It's the old saying, like inviting the fox into the henhouse kind of situation.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. It almost seems like a little bit of like a Lolita situation too,
Oh,
because
well, yes, but again, yeah, like the culture is a little bit different, and well, she was like still in high school, right?
yeah, like a sophomore or something like that in high school. Like she was second year high school student.
Okay.
So we're
Well,
looking at
I
like
don't
maybe
remember like
like
what year she was in, but
I think it was like
um,
second or third year in high school. So she was maybe like somewhere between 15 and 17.
right. And he had already fulfilled his military service, so he
I'm
had
thinking
to
he was
be.
probably like 23 because no age
Yeah,
was actually really given in the film.
what was that?
No age was actually given in the film, but I'm assuming he was probably like in his like
Right.
early 20s, like 22,
Well, right. The
23.
only indication of age that was given was when you know him and the friend initially met up, so he can so the friend could give the guy or let the guy know about the job opportunity, and
Right.
he had specifically mentioned that he had done his military service already, so that has to at least put him at 23.
Yeah, and so I'm assuming that's
Right. Okay.
how old he was.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
it is a little bit Lolita, but they,
because
yeah,
she wasn't like completely innocent
mhm,
either.
right,
But the whole situation was very odd. It was very weird.
mhm, right, and they put the caveats like, oh, well, I'm gonna at least wait for her, I'm gonna wait until she at least gets
Into university.
yeah, into university before we like go public, basically, but they're still kind of sneaking around in the meantime,
Right.
but. Right, but then I think, and then after that, they have like this interaction with Mrs. Park's son, where he's like this kind of rambunctious youth, and he then has the idea of getting his sister in on the action, and but passes her off as uh, a friend of his cousins who went to school in the States, and
Right, and well, especially because they are very like this family, like well, their son's fascinated with like the American Indians and like boy being a Boy Scouts and all this stuff.
mhm.
So he has an obsession with a lot of American things, and
Yeah, or like
so
Western
having this
or Western ideas. Like he's very you might dare say that this kid was a rugged individualist.
Yeah, and so having his sister pass off as this like friend of his cousin who studied abroad in the United States. It's like, oh, that's very prestigious. It's
Right, yeah. And it
because
wasn't and it's like this the school that he mentioned that she went to wasn't even like, an Ivy League. It was just it was a state school in Illinois.
yeah, it was Illinois State University.
Right, yeah, it wasn't, yeah. It was a state school. It wasn't, it wasn't like it wasn't prestigious Harvard or, or Yale or Stanford.
Maybe it would, maybe like having that would maybe throw up some red flags too. So maybe they chose a university that like you wouldn't really, you're not going to question that. It's like, okay, well, I mean, it's prestigious because she's from Korea and studying abroad in America, which is not, no matter where you go, it's not easy to do, and you have
Right.
to
And it's
have
not,
some
yeah,
sort
it's not available to
of
every
intelligence.
person. But then, but an interesting thing, because I did a lot, I was doing some research, and I listened to a podcast, talking about this, and it's like, it's kind of like it also shows the naivete of Mrs. Park, because she's like she just hear like, kind of spoilers. She kind of references a lot of like about the states, about, like there's like the scene with when like the son goes out to camp during the thunderstorm, and the dad asks like, oh, is that tent gonna be okay? It's like, oh yeah, it's fine. I bought it from the States. So she kind of
Yeah,
has like, she kind of, fetishizes, things from America. And so it doesn't matter, like, if it's not like a prestigious school like Harvard or Princeton or something like that. As long as it's like in the states, then she's like, oh yes, of course, the states.
yeah, that's I actually hadn't thought of that either. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Right. But then it's like, but then it also goes like the idea of like fetishizing, Western things, like particularly like Indians, like with the sun.
Right, and then so then you have like now that the sister's now in, then it's like, oh well, we're getting paid pretty good money, and so why don't we kind of keep this thing rolling? And they find a way to maneuver the dad's or the family's chauffeur out of the way.
Right, and I think
And
this is the first. I think this is where you kind of stop kind of feeling sympathy. Well, at least for me, this is where I stopped feeling sympathy for
yeah,
the
this is
Kim
where I
family,
stopped.
because they got someone fired, as opposed to then, them there being this opportunity, like with the son, like, the former tutor was stepping down, so the former tutor recommended him, so he was just filling an already vacant void, and then also like, with the sister coming in, it's like, they're creating like this opportunity, so it's not as though they're taking away from anybody. But I think this is the first step in which like they kind of like made me not feel sympathy for them, because they were, they purposely created a situation for someone already in the position to be fired,
Right, and
which
so
won't be the
that
last
was,
time.
which won't be the last time because then they get this chauffeur fired
Mm-hmm.
um, under really awful circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
um, then they have the dad come in to replace. They get they find a way to get their dad to become the new chauffeur. Um, and then it's like, well, shoot, we already have three family members here. Like the next, we might as well like make another
Oh, we have
spot.
three. Like, yeah. So why don't we just like, make it a full set, make it a completely family affair, and they get the long time housekeeper fired, so the mother could take over, and
Yeah,
yeah, and I
and
think it's like in like the way they got the driver fired was, messed up, but because the sister, was being driven home by the driver, and she like removed her underwear and like stashed it away, and made it look like the driver was taking advantage of the parks, and having sex in the car. Um, but the way they ousted the longtime housekeeper was they made it. The housekeeper had an allergy to peaches, and so they would shave the fuzz off peaches and dust it around her, so she will cause her to have a allergic reaction, which they
Yeah, and then
then
they like
spin it into her having tuberculosis.
yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
And and then the other thing too is like you think even like um because before, like when it's just the brother and the sister, oh they're just filling a hole like where they're this vacant thing. But then you go and like find out like they're acting this all out, like every part that they play is all acted out, like they meticulously go over how the parks are going to react and how like the dialogue that's created, and you realize that the whole all four of them, it's a whole scam.
Right,
And
and I
yeah, so you
think
like you
and a little bit of uh, the meta-ness. This part of the movie is that the son um, is coaching the father like how to deliver the lines, and the meta commentary is the actor that plays the father is a really well known actor in Korea. He's what was his name?
no yeah
Uh, what is it? Well, yeah, he's like he's basically like he's their
he's been
like Robert De Niro basically. And so
yeah he's been
the
I've seen
meta
lots of
commentary is, or the meta joke is that the son is is coaching the father, who is the Robert De Niro of Korea, on how to act.
yeah, that's right. I think that was pretty funny, yeah, because
Yeah.
he but yeah, it's like it's kind of crazy. And like this family of four has become kind of like they've parasited themselves onto this rich family and are essentially using them
Mm-hmm.
to for money.
Yeah. Uh,
See, is there anything else that like we because not trying to give off spoilers, like because there's a lot more to share, but like I
mhm.
think I don't want to give anything away yet on this film.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, maybe we could talk about until maybe we should talk up uh, until about the turning point, which I think would be about when they kind of when the parks go off on a camping trip for their for their son's
Yeah, we definitely
birthday.
have to stop there
Yeah,
because
we'll
otherwise, like,
stop there. We'll like give it some time for people to watch the movie, and then we'll revisit. Or we could do, or this could be kind of like a tie-in to like the main podcast episode that we're thinking of doing.
yes, because I think we are gonna like talk about this more probably on that, and we'll definitely dive deeper into the film. But
Right.
this is just a initial.
Yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, we'll just do up until that point, and it's hilarious that they because they have like this kind of party at the park house, and they kind of and they just kind of like infest. They infest like parasites. They infest the house. They take up residence at as it were, and the son makes a very interesting comment about his sister when he's like, oh yeah, when I went to give you the water and you're watching TV in the bathtub, it's like, man, you really look like you belong there. Um,
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty interesting comment. It's like, it's like, oh, you belong there. it's like kind of like we're infesting this house, that doesn't belong to us, but we feel like we really deserve it.
Yeah, and there's all this constant like fantasy
Mm-hmm.
to this family, and they're always kind of thinking about and fantasizing about like living this luxurious lifestyle, like, and yeah, it's like they're, I think in a sense like, oh, like the mom is like so nice and caring, like, it's kind of a shame that like we're, because I think there was like a little bit of like they started to show like a little bit like, I kind of do feel bad because the mom, the Mrs. Park, she's so nice to all of us, despite
Mm-hmm.
everything, and it's like,
Oh,
and
right.
the mom's like, it's like, no, 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 stop thinking about that, like this is our time. The only reason that this lady is nice is because she has a lot of money. She has zero
Right, like
worries.
like the only reason why she's nice because like she doesn't have the worries, of us like regular folk. So she doesn't have like the burdens of us regular folk to worry about. So that's why she's free to be so nice and accommodating or whatever.
Right, right,
But
yeah, and that's
not understanding like the idea is like if you're a piece of shit with $10, then you're gonna be a piece of shit with $10,000.
yeah, and that's the and yeah, and then after that, it's like, then the sister who's drunk, like, she's like, oh, stop thinking about like these other people. Think about us.
Mm-hmm.
Worry about like our problems, and that's kind of like where after that there's kind of a big
Yeah,
like
that's where the
reveal.
turn happens, and I
Yeah.
think we're not gonna get into that today, but
All
uh,
I had to say is go watch this film. This is easily the best film of 2019, hands down,
mhm.
in my opinion. And um, I think this is probably the best film I've seen since we watched Burning.
Mm, yeah,
Uh,
that's funny. But I like Burning better than this movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, not that I didn't like this movie, but I like Burning better than this movie.
I'm still deciding between, which one I like better,
Mhm.
but they are both, I mean, these are heavy hitting. These are
Right?
heavy
No,
hitters.
these are like This is like if these two movies were like kaiju monsters, it'd be like really hard to decide who's gonna win.
It's like Godzilla and Rodan. You
But my personal preference, I like Burning a little bit more than I like this movie.
Okay. I still haven't made a decision on that yet.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to watch this both movies again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still, I mean, I will probably rewatch both of them and like get more things out of it because
Yeah, I
these are
mean,
films that
I
have
kind of want
rewatch.
to watch. I kind of want to watch Parasite again, just because like, I want to go because the first time is always just for enjoyment, or entertainment, but now the second time I have to go back and I have to like really pay attention and try to see any details that I might have missed the first time.
Right, right. Um, do we want to give a rating to it, or like, what
I mean,
how
I
are we
guess
gonna
I
do it?
mean both watched the movie, and so I guess we still can. We just didn't we didn't go through the entire movie, but
Or do we want to
I think we still give it a rating.
you
What was
want to
that?
still give it a rating, or is like, did you want to save that for the main podcast when we actually really dive deep into it, or do you want to do
Oh,
the
actually, yeah, that might be a better idea. Yeah. So if you
so we're
guys
gonna leave
want
you
to,
hanging on.
yeah, so we're a little bit of cliffhanger for you guys, because we do have plans to do a full review, but just on the main podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Um, and if you really want to know what we think about this movie, then again, be 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 on the lookout for that podcast.
Definitely.
Yes.